The wind howled through the trees, a mournful sound that echoed the desolation of the winter landscape. Snowflakes danced in the air, swirling like lost souls, searching for warmth. In the heart of this frozen wilderness, a solitary cabin stood, its wooden walls weathered and weary, a testament to the harshness of the world outside. Inside, a fire crackled, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls, but the warmth it provided was a fragile comfort against the biting cold. Suddenly, a thud resonated against the door, a sound that shattered the stillness of the night. The hunter, a rugged man with a face etched by years of solitude and survival, paused mid-sip of his whiskey. His heart raced, a primal instinct kicking in. He had lived alone for years, far from the chaos of civilization, but something about that sound sent a shiver down his spine. He rose cautiously, the floorboards creaking beneath his weight. As he approached the door, the thud came again, more insistent this time. The hunter's mind raced with possibilities. Was it a bear, a desperate deer, or something more sinister? He hesitated, hand hovering over the latch, the weight of his decision pressing heavily upon him. With a deep breath, he flung the door open, revealing a sight that would haunt him forever. A wolf, gaunt and trembling, lay at his feet, its fur matted with snow and blood. Its eyes, once fierce and wild, now reflected a deep vulnerability, a plea for help that transcended words. The hunter's heart twisted in his chest. He had spent years hunting these creatures, viewing them as mere trophies. But now, faced with this dying animal, he felt an unfamiliar pang of empathy. As the wolf's body shuddered, the hunter's instincts battled within him. Should he help this creature that had been his enemy? Or should he close the door and return to the safety of his fire? The choice loomed before him, heavy with consequence. In that moment, he realized that letting the wolf in would not only change its fate, but would also unravel the very fabric of his own existence. The hunter, named Jack, had always been a man of the wild. Raised in a family of hunters, he learned the ways of the forest from a young age. His father had instilled in him a deep respect for nature, but also a sense of dominance over it. Survival of the fittest, his father would say, as they tracked their prey through the underbrush. Jack had embraced this philosophy, honing his skills until he became a master of the hunt. Yet, as the years passed, the thrill of the chase faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of isolation. The cabin, once a sanctuary, had become a prison. Jack's only companions were the echoes of his past and the memories of the family he had lost. A tragic accident had taken his wife and child, leaving him with nothing but guilt and regret. He buried himself in his work, believing that the wilderness could offer him solace, but it only deepened his loneliness. Meanwhile, in the depths of the forest, a mother wolf named Luna fought to keep her pups alive. The harsh winter had taken its toll, and food was scarce. Luna was a fierce protector, her instincts honed by the need to survive. She had raised her pups in a hidden den, teaching them the ways of the wild. But as the days grew colder and the nights darker, her strength began to wane. Luna's heart ached as she watched her pups grow weaker, their playful barks replaced by whimpers of hunger. She ventured farther from the den each day, searching for food, but the forest was unforgiving. The scent of death lingered in the air, a reminder of the fragility of life. Each time she returned empty-handed, despair clawed at her heart. On that fateful night, driven by desperation, Luna made a choice that would alter the course of her life. She sensed the presence of a human nearby, a creature she had always avoided, but the instinct to protect her young outweighed her fear. With every ounce of strength she had left, she dragged herself toward the cabin, hoping against hope that the man inside would show mercy. As Jack stood at the threshold, the weight of his past collided with the reality before him. The wolf's eyes, filled with pain and vulnerability, mirrored his own struggles. In that moment, he saw not just a dying animal, but a reflection of his own lost humanity. The decision to let her in was not merely an act of kindness. It was a chance for redemption, a way to confront the demons that had haunted him for so long. With a trembling hand, Jack stepped back, allowing the wolf to stumble inside. The moment she crossed the threshold, a palpable shift occurred in the air. The cabin, once a fortress of solitude, transformed into a sanctuary of shared suffering. Luna collapsed onto the wooden floor, her body shaking as she struggled to breathe. Jack rushed to her side, his instincts as a hunter now replaced by a deep-seated need to nurture. He grabbed a blanket from the nearby chair and draped it over her frail body, his heart racing as he assessed her injuries. Blood matted her fur, and her ribs protruded sharply against her skin. Jack's mind raced with questions. How had she come to this state? What had driven her to seek refuge in a place she would normally avoid? As he tended to her wounds, Jack felt an unexpected connection forming between them. The wolf, despite her pain, looked up at him with a mixture of trust and fear. In that moment, he realized that they were both survivors, bound by their struggles against a world that seemed determined to break them. Outside, the storm raged on, the wind howling like a pack of wolves in the night. Jack stoked the fire, its warmth enveloping them both, creating a cocoon of safety amidst the chaos. He poured a bowl of water and placed it gently in front of Luna, who lapped it up eagerly, her eyes never leaving his face. As the hours passed, Jack found himself sharing stories with the wolf, speaking aloud the thoughts he had kept buried for so long. He spoke of his family, the love he had lost, and the guilt that had consumed him. Luna listened, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding that transcended words. In her presence, Jack felt a flicker of hope igniting within him, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, connection could be found. The following days were a blur of uncertainty and struggle. Jack devoted himself to caring for Luna, nursing her back to health while grappling with his own emotional turmoil. The storm outside continued to rage, trapping them in the cabin, but within those walls, a fragile bond began to form. Luna's condition slowly improved, but the harsh reality of their situation loomed over them. The food supplies in the cabin were dwindling, and Jack knew he would have to venture out into the unforgiving wilderness to hunt. The thought filled him with dread. He had spent years hunting wolves, viewing them as mere prey, but now he was faced with the reality of survival. One morning, as the sun broke through the clouds, casting a pale light over the snow-covered landscape, Jack made the decision to leave the cabin. He gathered his hunting gear, his heart heavy with the weight of his choice. As he prepared to step outside, he turned to Luna, who lay curled up by the fire, her eyes watching him intently. "Stay here," he said softly, though he knew she would not understand. "I will be back soon." With a final glance, he opened the door and stepped into the biting cold. The world outside was a stark contrast to the warmth of the cabin. The snow crunched beneath his boots as he made his way into the forest, the trees standing tall and silent, witnesses to his internal struggle. Hunting had always been a solitary endeavor for Jack, but this time felt different. As he tracked the scent of deer, he could not shake the image of Luna from his mind. The wolf had become a symbol of his own redemption, a reminder of the compassion he had long buried beneath layers of grief and anger. Hours passed as he moved through the forest, the thrill of the hunt replaced by a gnawing sense of unease. He spotted a deer in the distance, its graceful form silhouetted against the white backdrop. Jack raised his bow, his heart pounding in his chest, but as he prepared to release the arrow, he hesitated. In that moment he saw Luna's eyes again, filled with trust and vulnerability. The thought of taking a life, of repeating the cycle of violence that had defined his existence, felt unbearable. He lowered his bow, the deer bounding away into the safety of the trees. Returning to the cabin empty-handed, Jack felt a mix of relief and despair. He had chosen compassion over violence, but the reality of their hunger weighed heavily on him. As he entered the cabin, he found Luna waiting for him, her eyes bright with anticipation. "I could not do it," he admitted, sinking to the floor beside her. "I could not take another life." Luna nuzzled against him, her warmth a comfort in the face of their shared struggle. In that moment, Jack realized that their fates were intertwined. They were both fighting for survival, not just against the elements, but against the darkness that had threatened to consume them. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between Jack and Luna deepened. The cabin, once a place of isolation, became a sanctuary of healing. Jack found himself talking to Luna as if she were a confidant, sharing his fears and dreams, while she listened with unwavering loyalty. He began to see her not just as a wolf, but as a companion who understood the weight of loss and the struggle for survival. However, the harsh winter continued to test their resilience. The snow piled high outside, and the biting cold seeped through the walls of the cabin. Jack's supplies dwindled, and he knew he could not rely on the meager rations he had left. The thought of venturing out again filled him with dread, but he understood that they could not survive on hope alone. One fateful morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden hue over the snow, Jack made the decision to hunt once more. He prepared himself mentally, knowing that this time he would have to confront the reality of his actions. He could not let Luna down. She depended on him for survival. "Stay close," he instructed her as they stepped outside together. Luna, now stronger and more agile, trotted beside him, her instincts sharp and alert. The forest was eerily quiet, the only sound being the crunch of snow beneath their feet. Jack felt a sense of camaraderie with the wolf, as if they were partners in this fight for survival. As they moved deeper into the woods, Jack's senses heightened. He spotted tracks in the snow, deer, fresh and promising. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. He followed the tracks, Luna at his side, her keen nose sniffing the air for any signs of danger. Suddenly, they came upon a clearing, and there, grazing peacefully, was a small herd of deer. Jack's breath caught in his throat. This was the moment he had been waiting for, but as he raised his bow, a wave of doubt washed over him. He could feel Luna's presence beside him, her eyes locked onto the deer, but there was a flicker of something deeper in her gaze, a reminder of the bond they had forged, a bond that transcended the hunter-prey dynamic he had always known. He lowered his bow, his heart pounding in his chest. The deer, unaware of the turmoil within him, continued to graze, their innocence a stark contrast to the violence he had been trained to embrace. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his decision pressing down on him. "Luna," he whispered, glancing at her. "What do I do?" In that moment, he realized that the answer lay not in the act of hunting, but in the choice to protect life rather than take it. He turned away from the deer, the bow slipping from his fingers and falling into the snow. The decision felt liberating, yet terrifying. As they made their way back to the cabin, Jack felt a sense of purpose igniting within him. He would not let the winter claim them. Instead of hunting, he would find a way to provide for Luna and himself without resorting to violence. The thought of foraging and seeking alternative sources of food filled him with determination. Back at the cabin, Jack rummaged through his supplies, searching for anything that could sustain them. He found a few cans of beans and some dried fruits, but it was not enough. He needed to venture out into the forest, to learn its secrets and discover what it could offer beyond the hunt. With Luna by his side, Jack began to explore the woods in search of edible plants and roots. He learned to identify the signs of life hidden beneath the snow, the delicate shoots of wild garlic and the hardy roots of dandelions. Each discovery filled him with a sense of accomplishment, a reminder that survival could come from understanding and respecting nature rather than dominating it. As the days passed, Jack and Luna adapted to their new way of life. They forged a routine, foraging during the day and returning to the warmth of the cabin at night. Jack found solace in the simplicity of their existence, the bond between them growing stronger with each shared meal and each moment of quiet companionship. However, the winter was relentless, and the struggle for survival continued. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Jack noticed Luna's demeanor change. She was restless, pacing back and forth, her ears perked up as if she sensed something beyond the walls of the cabin. "What is it, girl?" Jack asked, concern creeping into his voice. Luna stopped and looked at him, her eyes wide and alert. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled from her throat, and Jack's heart raced. He grabbed his hunting knife, instinctively preparing for whatever threat might be lurking outside. The door rattled, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. He had not anticipated any visitors, especially not in the dead of winter. With a cautious hand, he opened the door, revealing a figure shrouded in snow and shadows. A man stood before him, gaunt and weary, his clothes tattered and his face lined with desperation. Jack's instincts kicked in, but as he looked into the stranger's eyes, he saw a reflection of his own struggles. "Please," the man gasped, his voice hoarse. "I am lost and hungry. I mean no harm." Jack hesitated, the weight of his past decisions pressing down on him. He had spent years viewing strangers as potential threats, but in that moment, he saw a fellow survivor, much like himself. "Come in," Jack said, stepping aside to allow the man to enter. As the stranger crossed the threshold, Luna growled softly, her instincts still on high alert. Jack placed a calming hand on her back, sensing the tension in the air. "Thank you," the man said, his voice trembling. "I thought I would freeze out there." Jack offered him a seat by the fire, and as the man warmed himself, Jack could see the desperation etched on his face. "What happened to you?" Jack asked, curiosity mingling with concern. "I was separated from my group during a hunting trip," the man replied, his eyes darting around the cabin. "I have been wandering for days, searching for shelter. I did not know if I would find anyone out here." Jack felt a pang of empathy. He understood the man's plight all too well. "You are safe here for now," he said, though the unease lingered in the back of his mind. As they shared a meager meal, Jack learned more about the man's journey. He had once been a skilled hunter, but the winter had turned against him, leaving him vulnerable and alone. Jack could see the flicker of hope in the man's eyes as he spoke of his past, but the shadows of despair loomed large. Jack recognized that look. It was the same one he had worn for years after losing his family. "Do you have anyone waiting for you?" Jack asked, his voice gentle. The man's expression darkened. "No, I was alone before this trip. I lost my wife to illness last year. I thought hunting would help me find purpose again, but instead, it has led me to this." Jack felt a deep connection to the stranger's pain. They were both men who had lost everything, now clinging to the fragile thread of survival. "You are not alone anymore," Jack said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "You can stay here as long as you need." Luna, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, approached the stranger cautiously, her instincts still on high alert. The man extended a hand and Luna sniffed it, her growl subsiding as she sensed his vulnerability. "Thank you," the man said again, his voice thick with emotion. "I did not expect kindness in a place like this." As the night wore on, the three of them settled into an uneasy camaraderie. Jack shared stories of his life in the cabin, of the bond he had formed with Luna, and of the struggles they faced together. The man listened intently, his eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and longing. "I used to think of wolves as nothing more than prey," Jack admitted, glancing at Luna, who lay curled up by the fire. "But now I see them as survivors, just like us." The man nodded, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "We are all just trying to survive in this unforgiving world," he said. "Perhaps we can help each other." The idea resonated with Jack. He had spent so long in isolation, believing that survival meant facing the wilderness alone. But now, with the stranger's presence, he felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they could face the challenges ahead, pooling their resources and knowledge to navigate the harsh winter. As dawn broke the next day, Jack awoke to find the stranger already up, tending to the fire. "I thought I would help with breakfast," the man said, a hint of determination in his voice. Jack smiled, grateful for the companionship. "Thank you. I appreciate it." They worked side by side, preparing a simple meal of foraged roots and dried fruits. Luna watched them, her eyes bright with curiosity. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted. The weight of loneliness had lifted, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. After breakfast, Jack and the stranger, who introduced himself as Ethan, discussed their next steps. "We need to find more food," Jack said, glancing at the dwindling supplies. "The winter is far from over, and we cannot rely solely on foraging." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "I can help. I may not have my hunting gear, but I know the land. We can set traps and look for game together." The prospect of working as a team filled Jack with renewed energy. He had spent so long in solitude, but now he had someone to share the burden with. They gathered their supplies and set out into the forest, Luna leading the way, her instincts guiding them through the snow-covered terrain. As they moved deeper into the woods, Jack felt a sense of camaraderie growing between him and Ethan. They shared stories of their pasts, their losses, and their hopes for the future. Jack learned that Ethan had once been a family man, much like himself, and the bond of shared grief forged a connection that transcended their circumstances. They set traps along the way, using their combined knowledge to increase their chances of success. Jack marveled at how quickly Ethan adapted to the wilderness, his instincts sharp and his determination unwavering. Together, they worked tirelessly, their laughter echoing through the trees as they shared the burden of survival. As the days turned into weeks, the trio formed a new family unit. Jack, Ethan, and Luna became inseparable, each relying on the others for support and companionship. They faced the harsh realities of winter together, sharing the warmth of the cabin and the comfort of each other's presence. However, the struggle for survival was far from over. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Jack noticed a change in Luna's behavior. She was restless, pacing back and forth, her ears perked up as if she sensed something beyond the walls of the cabin. "Something is out there," Jack said, his heart racing. Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "We should be cautious. The forest can be unpredictable." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by a series of frantic barks. Jack's heart dropped. "Luna!" he shouted, rushing to the door. He flung it open, revealing a chaotic scene. Luna stood at the edge of the clearing, her fur bristled, barking fiercely at a shadowy figure lurking in the trees. Jack's heart raced as he stepped outside, the cold air biting at his skin. "Luna, come back," he called, but she remained steadfast, her instincts driving her to protect her territory. Ethan joined Jack at the door, his eyes scanning the darkness. "What do you see?" he asked, his voice low and tense. Before Jack could respond, the figure stepped into the light, revealing a large, menacing wolf, its eyes glinting with hunger. Jack's breath caught in his throat. This was not just any wolf. It was a dominant male, a potential threat to Luna and their fragile existence. "Stay back, Luna," Jack shouted, but she was already moving forward, her growls echoing through the night. The two wolves faced each other, a standoff that felt charged with tension. Jack's instincts kicked in, and he grabbed a nearby branch, ready to defend his companion. "Ethan, stay close," he warned, his heart pounding in his chest. The male wolf lunged at Luna, and Jack's heart dropped. "No," he shouted, rushing forward. But before he could intervene, Luna met the challenge head-on, her fierce spirit igniting as she defended her territory. The two wolves clashed, a whirlwind of fur and teeth, and Jack felt a surge of desperation. He could not let Luna be harmed. "Get back," he yelled, brandishing the branch. Ethan, sensing the urgency, joined Jack, shouting to scare the intruder away. "We need to protect her," he urged, his voice filled with determination. The struggle continued, and Jack felt a mix of fear and admiration for Luna's bravery. She fought valiantly, but the male wolf was larger and more powerful. Just as it seemed the situation would turn dire, Luna managed to outmaneuver her opponent, darting to the side and using her agility to her advantage. With a final growl, she lunged at the male wolf, forcing him to retreat. The intruder hesitated, then turned and fled into the darkness, leaving Luna panting and victorious. Jack rushed to her side, relief flooding through him. "You did it, girl," he exclaimed, kneeling beside her. "You are so strong." Ethan joined them, his expression a mix of awe and concern. "That was close," he said, glancing into the shadows where the male wolf had disappeared. "We need to be more vigilant. There are dangers out here we cannot control." As they returned to the cabin, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. The encounter had reminded him of the harsh realities of the wilderness, but it also reinforced the bond between him, Ethan, and Luna. They were a family now, united in their fight for survival. In the days that followed, they fortified their defenses, ensuring that the cabin was secure against any potential threats. Jack and Ethan worked together to set up barriers and traps around the perimeter, while Luna patrolled the area, her instincts sharp and alert. The winter continued to test their resilience, but they faced each challenge together. Jack found solace in the companionship of his newfound friends, and the weight of his past began to lift. He no longer felt like a solitary hunter. He was part of a team, a family that relied on one another for strength and support. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Jack, Ethan, and Luna deepened. They shared laughter, stories, and moments of vulnerability, each finding healing in the presence of the others. Jack learned to embrace the beauty of connection, realizing that survival was not just about physical endurance, but also about the emotional ties that bound them together. However, the harsh reality of winter still loomed over them. One evening, as they gathered around the fire, Jack noticed a change in Ethan's demeanor. The man had grown quieter, his eyes distant as he stared into the flames. "Ethan, what is on your mind?" Jack asked, concern etched on his face. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I have been thinking about my family," he admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. "I thought I could find purpose again through hunting, but all I have found is loss." Jack felt a pang of empathy. "I understand," he said softly. "I lost my family too. It is a pain that never truly goes away." Ethan nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I thought I could escape it, but the wilderness has a way of reminding you of what you have lost." In that moment, Jack realized that their shared grief was a bond that could not be broken. They were both men who had faced unimaginable loss, now finding solace in each other's company. "We cannot change the past," Jack said, his voice steady, "but we can honor their memory by living fully in the present. We can find strength in each other and in Luna." Ethan looked at Jack, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "You are right. I have been so consumed by my grief that I forgot to appreciate the life I still have." Jack smiled, feeling a sense of camaraderie growing between them. "Let us make a pact, then. We will not let our past define us. We will fight for our survival, for each other, and for the memories of those we have lost." Ethan nodded, a newfound determination in his gaze. "I will hold you to that." As the days turned into weeks, the trio continued to adapt to their new life. They learned to work together seamlessly, each contributing their strengths to the survival of the group. Jack's knowledge of the land, combined with Ethan's resourcefulness, created a formidable partnership. Luna, ever vigilant, became their protector, her instincts guiding them through the challenges they faced. One day, as they ventured out to check their traps, Jack noticed a change in the air. The sun was shining brighter, and the snow was beginning to melt, revealing patches of earth beneath. "Spring is coming," he said, a sense of hope swelling within him. Ethan smiled, his eyes lighting up. "That means new life. We can start planting and foraging for fresh food." Luna barked excitedly, sensing the shift in the season. Jack felt a surge of optimism. They had survived the harshest part of winter, and now, with the promise of spring, they could begin to rebuild their lives. As they worked together to prepare the land for planting, Jack felt a sense of purpose he had not experienced in years. He was no longer just a hunter. He was a caretaker, a protector, and a friend. The bond between him, Ethan, and Luna had transformed into something beautiful, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. However, as they began to plant seeds and nurture the earth, Jack could not shake the feeling that their struggles were not yet over. The wilderness was unpredictable, and they had faced many challenges together, but there was still a lingering sense of danger. One evening, as they sat around the fire, Jack shared his concerns with Ethan. "We have come so far, but I fear that the wilderness may still have more in store for us." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "We must remain vigilant. The world outside is still harsh, and we cannot let our guard down." Luna, sensing the tension, lay close to Jack, her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. "We will face whatever comes our way together," Jack said, determination in his voice. "We have each other, and that is what matters." As spring unfolded, the trio continued to thrive. They planted seeds, foraged for wild greens, and celebrated the small victories that came with each passing day. Jack found joy in the simple act of nurturing the earth, and he felt a sense of healing as he watched new life emerge from the soil. However, one fateful day, as they were out foraging, they stumbled upon a scene that would change everything. A group of hunters, armed and aggressive, had set up camp nearby. Jack's heart raced as he recognized the danger they posed. "Ethan, we need to be careful," he whispered, his instincts kicking in. "We cannot let them see us." Ethan nodded, his expression tense. "We should retreat and find another way." But as they turned to leave, Luna suddenly bolted forward, her instincts taking over. "Luna, no!" Jack shouted, panic rising in his chest. The wolf dashed toward the hunters, her protective nature driving her to confront the threat. Jack and Ethan exchanged horrified glances as they watched her approach the group. "Stay back!" one of the hunters shouted, raising his weapon. "Luna!" Jack yelled, desperation flooding his voice. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. Jack's heart raced as he sprinted toward the scene, fear coursing through his veins. He could not let anything happen to Luna. As he reached her, he threw himself in front of the wolf, shielding her from the hunters. "Please, do not harm her," he pleaded, his voice trembling. The hunters hesitated, their eyes narrowing as they assessed the situation. "What are you doing with that beast?" one of them sneered. "She is not a beast," Jack said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "She is my companion, and she has saved my life." Ethan joined Jack, standing beside him with a fierce determination. "We are not here to cause trouble. We're just trying to survive, just like you. Please let us go." The lead hunter, a burly man with a weathered face, studied them for a moment, his expression unreadable. "You think you can just live out here with a wolf? You are playing with fire, friend. Wolves are dangerous." Jack felt a surge of anger at the man's ignorance. "She is not dangerous to me. She is my friend, my family. We have fought together to survive this winter." The tension in the air was palpable, and Jack could feel the weight of the hunters' gazes on him. He knew they were outnumbered, and any wrong move could lead to disaster. "Look, we do not want any trouble," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "We are just trying to live our lives. We have no interest in hunting or causing harm." The lead hunter's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and for a moment, Jack thought they might be able to defuse the situation. But then another hunter, younger and more impulsive, stepped forward, brandishing his weapon. "That wolf could turn on you at any moment. We should take her out before she becomes a problem." "No," Jack shouted, stepping protectively in front of Luna. "You do not understand. She is not a threat. She has saved my life more than once." The lead hunter raised a hand, silencing the younger man. "Enough. Let us hear what the man has to say." Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. "We have all faced loss and hardship. I lost my family, and I found solace in this wolf. We have survived together, and I will not let you harm her." The lead hunter's expression softened slightly, and Jack seized the moment. "We can help each other. There's enough game in this forest for all of us. We do not need to be enemies." The hunters exchanged glances, and Jack could see the wheels turning in their minds. "You are saying you want to share the land?" the lead hunter asked, skepticism lacing his voice. "Yes," Jack replied, his voice steady. "We can coexist. There's no need for violence. We can work together to ensure our survival." The lead hunter considered this for a moment, and Jack could feel the tension in the air begin to shift. "All right," he said finally, lowering his weapon slightly. "But if you are lying, we will not hesitate to take action." Jack nodded, relief flooding through him. "I understand. We will respect your territory, and we ask that you respect ours." With that, the hunters retreated, leaving Jack, Ethan, and Luna standing in the clearing, hearts racing from the encounter. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, concern etched on his face. Jack nodded, though he felt shaken. "I think we managed to avoid disaster, but we need to be more careful. The wilderness is unpredictable, and we cannot let our guard down." Luna nuzzled against Jack's leg, her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. "We will face whatever comes our way together," Jack said, determination in his voice. As they made their way back to the cabin, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had survived yet another challenge, and their bond had only grown stronger. In the days that followed, Jack, Ethan, and Luna continued to adapt to their new reality. They worked together to fortify their defenses, ensuring that they were prepared for any potential threats. The encounter with the hunters had served as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the wilderness, but it had also reinforced the importance of their bond. As spring blossomed around them, the trio found joy in the simple pleasures of life. They planted seeds, foraged for wild greens, and celebrated the beauty of the world awakening around them. Jack felt a sense of healing as he watched new life emerge from the earth, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope could flourish. However, the lingering threat of the hunters weighed heavily on Jack's mind. He knew they could return at any moment, and he could not shake the feeling that their struggles were far from over. One evening, as they gathered around the fire, Jack shared his concerns with Ethan. "We need to be prepared. The hunters may come back, and we cannot let them catch us off guard." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "We should set up a watch system. One of us can keep an eye out while the others rest." Jack agreed, and they devised a plan to ensure their safety. They took turns keeping watch at night, each man alert for any signs of danger. Luna, ever vigilant, patrolled the perimeter, her instincts sharp and her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. As the days turned into weeks, the trio faced the harsh realities of spring. The melting snow revealed the remnants of winter, but the forest was still unforgiving. Jack, Ethan, and Luna worked tirelessly to gather food, but the threat of the hunters loomed over them like a dark cloud. One morning, Jack awoke to find the air crisp and clear, the sun shining brightly through the cabin window. He felt a sense of hope as he stretched and prepared for the day ahead. "Today, we will check the traps and see if we can find anything to eat," he said, glancing at Ethan, who was already sharpening his knife. "Let us hope for a good catch," Ethan replied, his eyes reflecting determination. Luna wagged her tail, sensing the excitement in the air. Together, they set out into the forest, the sounds of nature surrounding them. Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose, but the memory of the hunters lingered in the back of his mind. As they approached the first trap, Jack's heart raced. He knelt down to inspect it, and to his relief, he found a small rabbit caught inside. "We did it!" he exclaimed, lifting the rabbit triumphantly. Ethan grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. This will make a fine meal. But as they continued to check the traps, their luck began to wane. The next few traps were empty, and Jack's heart sank. "We need more than this to survive," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on Jack's shoulder. "We will find a way. We always do." Just then, Luna's ears perked up, and she began to growl softly, her instincts alerting her to something in the distance. Jack and Ethan exchanged worried glances. "What is it, girl?" Jack asked, his heart racing. Luna took off into the underbrush, and Jack and Ethan followed closely behind. They soon found her standing over a fresh deer carcass, the scent of blood heavy in the air. "Looks like we found a feast," Ethan said, his eyes widening. Jack felt a mix of excitement and unease. "But where is the hunter? This is too fresh." Before they could ponder further, a rustling sound echoed through the trees, and Jack's heart dropped. "We need to get out of here," he urged, grabbing Ethan's arm. But it was too late. The lead hunter from before emerged from the shadows, flanked by two others. Well, well, what do we have here?" he sneered, eyeing the carcass and then Jack and Ethan. Jack's heart raced as he stepped protectively in front of Luna. "We mean no harm. We found this deer. We are just trying to survive." The lead hunter laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the trees. "Survival? You think you can just take what you want? This is our territory." Ethan's eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. "We do not want trouble. We can share the land." The hunters exchanged glances, and Jack could see the tension in the air. "You think we will share with a couple of fools and a wolf?" The lead hunter spat. Jack felt a surge of anger. "We are not fools. We have fought to survive, just like you. We can help each other." The lead hunter stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "Help? You think you can help us? You are nothing but a nuisance." In that moment, Jack knew they had to act. "Luna, stay back," he whispered, his heart pounding. With a sudden burst of courage, Jack lunged forward, grabbing a nearby branch and brandishing it as a weapon. "We will not let you take what we have fought for." The hunters hesitated, surprised by Jack's defiance. "You think you can scare us?" the lead hunter taunted, but Jack could see the uncertainty in his eyes. Ethan joined Jack, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. "We are not afraid of you," he said, his voice steady. The standoff felt electric, the tension thick in the air. Jack's heart raced as he prepared for a fight, but just as the situation seemed to escalate, Luna let out a fierce growl, stepping forward protectively. The lead hunter took a step back, his bravado faltering. "Get that wolf away from me," he shouted, fear creeping into his voice. Jack seized the moment. "We will not harm you if you do not harm us. We can coexist. There's enough in this forest for all of us if we work together." The lead hunter's bravado began to wane as he glanced at his companions, who looked uncertain. "You think you can just live here with that beast?" he spat, but there was a tremor in his voice. "Yes," Jack replied, his voice firm. "Luna is not just a wolf. She is my companion. She has saved my life, and I will protect her at all costs. We can help each other survive." The lead hunter hesitated, his eyes darting between Jack, Ethan, and Luna. "You are playing a dangerous game," he warned, but Jack could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. "Perhaps," Jack said, lowering the branch slightly, "but we have already faced the worst of this winter. We have fought to survive, and we can do so together. We can share the land, the resources, and the knowledge we have." The lead hunter's expression softened slightly, and Jack seized the opportunity. "Let us prove ourselves. We can work together to ensure that we all survive this harsh world." After a tense moment, the lead hunter finally nodded, albeit reluctantly. "Fine, but if you cross us, you will regret it." Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you. We will respect your territory and your rules." With that, the hunters retreated, leaving Jack, Ethan, and Luna standing in the clearing, hearts racing from the encounter. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, concern etched on his face. Jack nodded, though he felt shaken. "I think we managed to avoid disaster, but we need to be more careful. The wilderness is unpredictable, and we cannot let our guard down." Luna nuzzled against Jack's leg, her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. "We will face whatever comes our way together," Jack said, determination in his voice. As the days turned into weeks, the uneasy truce with the hunters weighed heavily on Jack's mind. He could not shake the feeling that their struggles were far from over. The forest was still a dangerous place, and the threat of the hunters lingered like a shadow. One evening, as they gathered around the fire, Jack shared his concerns with Ethan. "We need to be prepared. The hunters may come back, and we cannot let them catch us off guard." Ethan nodded, his expression serious. "We should set up a watch system. One of us can keep an eye out while the others rest." Jack agreed, and they devised a plan to ensure their safety. They took turns keeping watch at night, each man alert for any signs of danger. Luna, ever vigilant, patrolled the perimeter, her instincts sharp and her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. One night, as Jack sat by the fire, he heard a rustling sound outside. His heart raced as he grabbed his knife, ready to defend his home. "Ethan, wake up," he whispered urgently. Ethan stirred, his eyes wide with alarm. "What is it?" "I heard something outside," Jack replied, straining to listen. Luna stood at the door, her body tense and alert. Jack opened the door cautiously, peering into the darkness. The moonlight illuminated the clearing, but there was no sign of danger. "Maybe it was just the wind," Ethan suggested, but Jack felt a knot of unease in his stomach. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, and Jack's heart dropped. It was the lead hunter, flanked by two others. "We are back," he said, a smirk on his face. Jack's instincts kicked in, and he stepped protectively in front of Luna. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "We want to see if you are as good as your word," the lead hunter replied, his tone mocking. "We heard you were foraging in our territory." Jack felt a surge of anger. "We are trying to survive, just like you. We have not taken anything that does not belong to us." The lead hunter stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just live here without consequences?" You are playing a dangerous game. Ethan joined Jack, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. We are not afraid of you, he said, his voice steady. The standoff felt electric, the tension thick in the air. Jack's heart raced as he prepared for a fight, but just as the situation seemed to escalate, Luna let out a fierce growl, stepping forward protectively. Get that wolf away from me, the lead hunter shouted, fear creeping into his voice. Jack felt a surge of protectiveness. You will not harm her, he declared, stepping forward. She is not just a wolf. She is my companion, and I will defend her. The lead hunter hesitated, his bravado faltering as he glanced at his companions. You think you can intimidate us with a wolf and a couple of words? No, Jack replied, his voice steady. But I can promise you that we will not back down. We have fought too hard to survive, and we will not let you take that away from us. The lead hunter's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. You are playing a dangerous game, friend. You think you can just live here without consequences. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. We are not your enemies. We can coexist. There is enough in this forest for all of us if we work together. The lead hunter studied Jack for a long moment, and Jack could see the wheels turning in his mind. You are either very brave or very foolish, he finally said. But I will give you this. If you can prove your worth, perhaps we can find a way to coexist. Jack felt a flicker of hope. What do you propose? Show us that you can survive out here without relying on us, the lead hunter said. If you can do that, we will leave you be. But if you fail, we will take what we want. Jack nodded, determination flooding through him. We will prove ourselves. With that, the hunters retreated into the shadows, leaving Jack and Ethan standing in the clearing, hearts racing from the encounter. Are you okay? Ethan asked, concern etched on his face. Jack nodded, though he felt shaken. We need to be more careful. The wilderness is unpredictable, and we cannot let our guard down. Luna nuzzled against Jack's leg, her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. We will face whatever comes our way together, Jack said, determination in his voice. In the days that followed, Jack and Ethan worked tirelessly to prepare for the challenge laid before them. They knew they had to prove their worth to the hunters, and the pressure weighed heavily on their shoulders. Let us focus on what we can do, Jack said one morning as they gathered their supplies. We will forage, set traps, and show them that we can survive without their help. Ethan nodded, his expression resolute. We will not let them intimidate us. We have come too far to back down now. With renewed determination, they set out into the forest, Luna leading the way. Jack felt a sense of purpose as they moved through the trees, the sounds of nature surrounding them. They checked their traps, foraged for edible plants, and worked together to gather what they needed to survive. As the days turned into weeks, they faced challenges and setbacks, but they persevered. Jack learned to adapt to the changing environment, using his knowledge of the land to find food and resources. Ethan's resourcefulness shone through as he crafted tools and set traps, and Luna's instincts guided them through the wilderness. One evening, as they sat around the fire, Jack reflected on their journey. We have come so far, he said, a sense of pride swelling within him. We have fought to survive, and we have done it together. Ethan smiled, his eyes shining with gratitude. I could not have done this without you, Jack. You have shown me that there is strength in companionship. Luna lay beside them, her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. Jack reached down to scratch her behind the ears, feeling a sense of warmth and connection. But as the days passed, the threat of the hunters still loomed in the back of Jack's mind. He knew they would return, and he could not shake the feeling that their struggles were far from over. One fateful day, as they were out foraging, they stumbled upon a scene that would change everything. A group of hunters, armed and aggressive, had set up camp nearby. Jack's heart raced as he recognized the danger they posed. Ethan, we need to be careful, he whispered, his instincts kicking in. We cannot let them see us. Ethan nodded, his expression tense. We should retreat and find another way. But as they turned to leave, Luna suddenly bolted forward, her instincts taking over. Luna, no. Jack shouted, panic rising in his chest. The wolf dashed toward the hunters, her protective nature driving her to confront the threat. Jack and Ethan exchanged horrified glances as they watched her approach the group. "Stay back!" Jack shouted, his heart pounding in his chest as he sprinted after Luna. "Get away from her!" The hunters turned, startled by the sudden appearance of the wolf. The lead hunter raised his weapon, but Jack was faster. He lunged forward, positioning himself between Luna and the hunters. "You will not harm her," he yelled, his voice filled with desperation. "Get that beast away from us!" the lead hunter shouted, his eyes wide with fear. Luna stood her ground, growling fiercely, her body tense and ready to defend Jack. Jack could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, a mix of fear and determination. "She is not a threat to you. She is my companion, and I will protect her." The hunters hesitated, their weapons still raised, but their confidence wavering. Jack could see the uncertainty in their eyes. "We are not your enemies," he pleaded. "We have fought to survive in this wilderness, just like you. We can coexist." The lead hunter's expression shifted, and for a moment, Jack thought they might find common ground. "You think you can just live here with that wolf?" he spat, but there was a tremor in his voice. "Yes," Jack replied, his voice steady. "Luna has saved my life more than once. We have worked hard to survive, and we can help each other." The lead hunter glanced at his companions, who looked uncertain. "You are either very brave or very foolish," he said finally. "But I will give you this. If you can prove your worth, perhaps we can find a way to coexist." Jack felt a flicker of hope. "What do you propose?" "Show us that you can survive out here without relying on us," the lead hunter said. "If you can do that, we will leave you be. But if you fail, we will take what we want." Jack nodded, determination flooding through him. "We will prove ourselves." With that, the hunters retreated, leaving Jack, Ethan, and Luna standing in the clearing, hearts racing from the encounter. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, concern etched on his face. Jack nodded, though he felt shaken. "We need to be more careful. The wilderness is unpredictable, and we cannot let our guard down." Luna nuzzled against Jack's leg, her presence a comforting reminder of their bond. "We will face whatever comes our way together," Jack said, determination in his voice. As the sun set on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the forest, Jack, Ethan, and Luna stood together, united in their fight for survival. They had faced countless challenges, but through it all, they had forged an unbreakable bond. Their journey was a testament to the power of resilience, compassion, and the strength found in companionship. They had learned that survival was not just about physical endurance, but also about the emotional ties that bound them together. Now, as they prepared for the next chapter of their lives, Jack felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. They had proven their worth, not just to the hunters, but to themselves. They were survivors, and together, they could face whatever the wilderness threw their way. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled above, Jack turned to the audience, his voice filled with conviction. "Remember, no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always a glimmer of hope. We can find strength in each other, and together, we can overcome any obstacle. If you found inspiration in our story, share it with others. Let us remind the world that compassion and connection can light the way through even the darkest of times."